in Boston for a bit, startup, and then ended up ultimately here, always in the cardiovascular space, product development primarily. Abiomed, what brought me here at the time was the idea of what seemed a very innovative company, and you get lucky sometimes, quite honestly. That was a long time ago, and it's been that, and it's been more. The thing that's really resonated, while we talked patient first at the time, that has become so real. And really in my role of, I've had the opportunity to be in cases and meet patients, and and there's the ups and downs of all of that. You really feel the impact. It's real. It keeps you up at night at times in a good way, in a challenging way. And I love it. I love that. And I know the people that work here love that. Makes it so meaningful. And it makes it challenging. And then the people here have just kept me here as well. I have a team. I'm fortunate to have a team, incredibly talented. All of them can do many things much better than me. And so can just about everybody here. And that's to me, that's an environment I look to be in, and is a reason that's also kept me at Abiomed. It actually speaks to me when I think of the term diversity of thought, diversity of people, diversity of character, all of those things is cultivating that. And I think it's a big deal to me here.
Do you have just a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you.
You want to go? Hello? Yeah, I'll keep going. So anyways, that's my path to Abiomed. So if you want to, Greg, go to the slide on product.
Yeah, 1 second, hold on. I will just mute this.
Does that work? So my team focuses on bringing different devices to market. And a lot of you here have experience in different parts of industry. So this path is probably pretty familiar. You go from a feasibility stage through some sort of design development verification, all the way through potentially a regulatory approval or some approval of a product of some sort into commercialization. But I'll walk through a little bit of our viewpoint. So if you want to advance this here, early phase planning and feasibility, what does that mean to us? Voice of the customer, voice of the physicians, understanding what the patients need, what our indications are that we're trying to treat. Randy spoke to the needs, and just really refining and getting that. You can't really go anywhere in designs and development unless you really understand that. Setting the requirements and then rapidly prototyping, learning, and going from there. I'll say one thing Abiomed loves to do is learn, and you've got to mind your risk and then start to move forward, and you learn live as you go. And again, that's something that I think is a wonderful part of how we do this in early phase. Engage physicians, engage our users, understand what those needs are. As you develop that, you move into this next phase of design and development. This thing will largely work. Conceptually, it's now into something that, how do we make it work well all the time for our patients? So robust design, characterization, many of you have probably been exposed to this in different ways. For us, this is just fail fast, learn, iterate, and make it better. There's bench evaluations. We have wonderful mechanical labs. We've built a facility around us in this time, and that's allowed us to have space to electrical, mechanical evaluation labs that we work with. We have animal labs and partners in the US, in Europe, that we engage as we mature these designs to understand them, human factors, the usability across the spectrum, and then all the needs of the device from a chemocompatible, biocompatible standpoint. So this is all the heart of design development. You're now moving into a year 2 phase, depending on how detailed this design is. And then at some stage, you move into, okay, let's verify and validate this thing. So the testing becomes formalized, often in the context of protocols that will go to the FDA or other regulatory bodies around the world. We do treat patients worldwide, big markets in Europe and Japan, and obviously the US and many other countries. So we've got to be mindful of that. The verify versus validate. Did we make the product the right way for the design inputs. And then ultimately, you can meet all the specs you've set, but did you deliver to what the patient needed? And that's the validation piece. And that can be sometimes more involved because that question is a trickier question. And that's where you may be deep into animal studies or clinical trials, which is alluded to as you go forward, to really make sure we're providing all the value as we put this energy into it. And then process validations and all the work as we begin to think about scaling these products. We aren't a high volume manufacturer relative to many things, and many things many of you guys are probably involved on, but it's a complex manufacturing process. The device is not simple by any means. And people like Sarah and teams, they have to start sorting out how to pull this all together and scale. And we're really talking about it heavily at this phase. And then the clinical trials and regulatory approval are damped out here. That's a whole nother topic, depending, you might be into a clinical trial, you might not. And then there's the whole regulatory pathway that we could spend hours on. But we'll move to that and then go into commercialization. We've now said we've got an approved product by some regulatory body and introduce it into the field. And I think this is another place that Abiomed does excel. Our field team is absolutely incredible. We work with physicians here on site. I mean, I feel super privileged to do that. Like I mentioned, I've worked with a lot of device companies, big and small. I've never had the access to cardiologists, surgeons, heart failure physicians here that I can walk in, knock on the door. This is very open door policy here. This is how it works. Everybody's very humble and they can ask questions. So that's a wonderful place to be. We go out to the field, we engage our physicians, we start to roll the product out, make sure it's successful, pivot if we have to, and keep going. So this gives you guys a view of our product development cycle. Much of it is things you've probably seen, and then there's elements that Abiomed does that's very unique. And as I mentioned, I've been here 11 years doing it, and I love it. I mean, I'll just say, I mean, it's not always easy, it's challenging, but that's what I look for, and it's a wonderful environment to do it.
Dion, thank you so much. It was really appreciate you really kind of going through that whole process for you and your team. Definitely impactful, and give some really great visuals in terms of what your team does. So thank you. All right. So now, as part of that, so Dion's team works on developing these products, and now we got to make them. So that's the fun piece with Sarah. So Sarah, she's amazing. She's got a really cool journey and story of how she's come to where she is today. And so Sarah's going to be talking about our new product introduction and production engineering team. So not only how do we take those products that are developed with Dion and his team and transferring them to manufacturing, but then actually manufacturing them as well. So Sarah, without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Sarah Lesky. I just want to thank you again for having us here today. It's a pleasure to be with you. My title is ECMO Manufacturing Leader, and I'm a production engineer. But I wasn't always an engineer, and I think Greg alluded to my unique background. I actually got my undergraduate degree in interior design at Cornell University, and my first job out of college was designing R&D innovation spaces for Covidien, which is another medical device company. And so that was sort of my first experience with the medical device industry. And I was also exposed to a lot of different kinds of engineering, and as well as manufacturing. And that really resonated with me. I stayed there for a few years and decided that I wanted to learn more about product design and manufacturing. So I went back to school. I went to a great program at Boston University called the LEAP program, which stands for Late Entry Accelerated Program. They accept students without an undergraduate degree in engineering. And I see someone else from VU. I loved it there. It was a great program. So if you don't have an undergraduate degree in engineering, but you're interested in getting into engineering, you basically take all of the core engineering coursework and then transition right into the master's program. So I did my master's in manufacturing engineering. And while I was finishing up my master's, I did a co-op at Abiomed and stayed there for a year as a co-op and got hired full-time as a production engineer. And I have been with the company ever since. And I think what is really special to me about Abiomed is that, you know, they took a chance on someone with no prior engineering experience, but someone who had, I guess, life experience, and they really look for people with different points of view, different experiences, different ways of solving problems. And I've seen that over time and time again as I've grown with the company. So it's a really special place. And that's kind of what's kept me there, is just the diversity of the team and the different kinds of people that you meet with all different backgrounds, and even those who might not have sort of the traditional engineering path to get there. So I'm going to talk about two different areas of engineering that we have in manufacturing. The first is new product introduction, and the second will be production engineering. And I hope that these will resonate with some of you. So new product introduction will overlap a lot with some of the things that Dion talked about with product development, because this group actually is sort of the bridge between product development and production engineering. And I decided to pick just one process that we do. We have probably hundreds of different processes that we do to make a pump. And one of them is laser welding, which I chose because lasers are cool. And so I'll go through sort of all of the things that we have to do to get one manufacturing process up and running. So what I'm showing here is our CP pump, and it's sort of a close-up of the outflow cage where blood exits the pump and the motor. And these two components are joined through a laser welding process. That's that little seam you can see in the middle of that box. So the new product introduction team will start with specifications from the development team. This could be drawings, materials, performance specifications. In the case of laser welding, it could be tensile strength. What's the force required to pull these two components apart? After we get our specifications, we have to pick the tools that we're going to use to put these things together. In this case, we use a laser welder, which basically shoots tiny laser pulses at the part as we spin it, so you get that smooth seam all the way around. Now that we've picked our equipment, we have to determine all of our process parameters and boundaries. So some examples here could be laser power. If your laser power was too low, you might not have a strong weld, but if it's too high, you might shoot a hole through all the parts, which you don't want. So you have to find the sweet spot for all of the parameters that go into your process. The next thing that we do is, so we always want our production process to go as smoothly as possible and be the same every single time, but that doesn't tend to be the nature of manufacturing. So we have to consider all of the different ways that a process could go wrong or fail, and make sure that we have mitigations in place should those failures occur. So the two examples here are, like I mentioned before, low laser power. This could cause a weak weld, which could cause components to separate. And this is super high risk. We would never want that to happen while the pump was in use in a patient. So we would have multiple mitigations in place in production to make sure that that never happens. A lower risk might be fixture misalignment. So maybe the fixtures that hold these two components together didn't line up and we couldn't put the pump together. So we might have to scrap that. And this process of risk analysis, we use a tool called PFMEA, and that stands for Process Failure Mode Effects Analysis. After that, we will go into validation. So we have our process, we have our equipment, all of our process parameters. We will run a series of production runs to make sure that we're meeting our specifications. So if we take tensile strength, for example, we'll build a bunch of pumps and we'll tensile test all of them. And we have a lower specification that we definitely want to be well above. In the case of tensile strength, we may or may not, we probably don't have an upper spec, but for some other parameters we might. And you can see an example here of how we have a target that we're always aiming for. And we do a lot of statistical analysis to make sure that we're meeting that target and our windows are really tight. And then finally, we will write work instructions. You're passing these production processes from engineers to production operators. And so you have to make sure that no matter who builds the pump, we always build it exactly the same way, no matter what shift it's on and no matter what site it's at. So now we have an established manufacturing process and we have to sustain and often scale up manufacturing. I think Greg mentioned earlier, I'm currently working on scaling up our new Oxy 1 product. And so something that we would work on here would be as we're scaling production or just monitoring day-to-day production. The production engineers monitor yield. So we inevitably have defects in production that we have losses in production, and we want to make sure that that happens as little as possible. Engineers spend a lot of time monitoring the yield, understanding why defects occurred, and preventing them from happening in the future. And if you could mind clicking, Greg. Sometimes when we have larger investigations or larger failures, it requires a big team to understand the root cause and preventing that from happening in the future. So we use a process called CAPA. So that stands for corrective action and preventive action. A corrective action could be a defect occurred, we figure out the root cause, and we put a fix in place to prevent it from happening again. A preventive action would be, well, let's look at all the other production processes in our clean room, and could a similar problem occur? If so, let's put a fix in place so that that never happens to begin with. So we definitely like to be more proactive than reactive, but it's usually the harder thing to achieve. Other things production engineers work on are improving efficiency, things like reducing cycle time, reducing touch time, and implementing lean practices such as 5S, which we use to standardize our workstations and implement best practices in our clean rooms. And finally, another fun thing we get to work on as production engineers is poka-yoke or error proofing. And a simple example here is showing how you typically try to find ways to prevent the process from being done the wrong way by mistake. So this example shows a plug where in the first example, you could do it 2 different ways, but in the second example, you can only do it the right way. It wouldn't be possible to do it the wrong way. So just a taste of the day in the life of a production engineer. I love manufacturing. It's different every day. There's new challenges. I feel so close to our product because I get to touch it every day. I love working with the production operators, and it makes me feel really close to our patients, which I think it's been said a lot of times, but that's what we're all about at Abiomed. So thank you so much.
Sarah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for kind of walking through that whole process. So now we have developed and manufactured these products. We've brought them to market, and Abbas is going to walk us through a little bit of the post-market engineering side of the work that we do here. So Abbas, the floor is yours.
Hey guys, my name is Abbas Lawal. I'm a mechanical engineer on our post-market engineering team. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised on Long Island to Nigerian parents, and I know there's some Nigerians in the crowd right now, so shout out to you guys. Point that out. And then I went to GW. Exactly. And not everyone at once now, though. So I went to GW, George Washington University in DC. I got my bachelor's in biomedical engineering, and that's how I first got involved with NSBE. I joined the NSBE chapter at GW, the fire chapter, and which is a sub chapter of NSBE DC. Afterwards, I worked as an orthopedic medical scribe because I always knew I wanted to do something with biomedical engineering, but I wanted to see like the clinical side of the technologies I hope to work with. So I did that for a year, and I helped my mom out at her pharmacy in Brooklyn while I was applying, and then I went to BU. So to Sarah's point, we actually had a few LEAP students in my master's program because we did them. I graduated with the MEng in biomedical engineering from BU back in 2020. So after I graduated from BU, and shout out to all the Terriers in the crowd too, if there are any, um, I joined Abiomed straight out of grad school. So, starting my career here was actually a really awesome experience because from a young age, I always knew that like the first thing I wanted to be was like a scientist. Just growing up, you don't really see scientists that that look like you, but I still, something in me, like I still love standing out. I still loved still pushing the envelope. So I really had no issues being, one of the few Black students in my math and science classes over the years. And I knew that like that was just like my career, because I remember my math teacher in ninth grade, he was saying like, oh, if you don't use math in your future career, you're wasting your time. I was like, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Mangaluso. So I was like, yeah, I know what I want to do. So, and that really fueled my passion to declare, biomedical engineering my freshman year at GW. And I always was fascinated by the way the human body moves. And I was also inspired by my older sister, who is a doctor, and my mom, who's a pharmacist. And I'm also really obsessed with space. And I don't know how this is going to work in the future, but I'm still figuring it out. But like, I want to combine space and BME and probably make space suits or, Iron Man suits. We'll see what happens next, but, stay tuned. And that really drove my interest in Abiomed, because the human aspect of any workplace is probably one of the most important things for me. And Abiomed is certainly different from others that I've experienced, and I've heard from even my peers and my friends who also are in the industry now. And Abiomed, we're always trying to like support and learn from each other. We're always trying to improve and get better. And we're always about constant improvement. We're always about like adapting and executing and making sure that we continue to evolve as demands and the challenges evolve too, because change is inevitable, and especially in this industry. And so what the company does for employees was also something like really attractive. We have so many events, a lot of free food, the benefits, we have the clinic, we have always these constant education sessions, Q&As, surveys, always getting feedback from the employees. So they really do take like what we like our feedback into heart, and it does make tangible improvements and tangible updates to our processes in the company. And Abiomed like really invests in employees, and it shows. So that was another like really attractive aspect of the company. And also like as its role in kind of like a teenager in the medical device space, kind of also allows me to grow with the company, especially as someone who's beginning my engineering career. So I'm really, it's really awesome to see so many changes, and we have so many new and exciting products in store. So it's really exciting to be able to see all these innovations continue to grow and continue to develop and grow. And also finally, and everyone's touched on this already, the focus on and celebration of the patients, because it really is something that is I don't really see in other companies, especially even of our size. We have these things called patient days, where we bring in the patients and we celebrate them and we talk about their stories. And you really do see the impact and what the Impella does to save lives every day. And it's a really awesome thing. And specifically because on the post-market engineering side of things, so we play a very unique and important role in the product lifecycle, because our primary concerns and our responsibilities are with the field. So we are always looking at what's happening in the field. So we provide like crucial engineering support to all of the products. So we have this very unique view post production, post everything, of all the products, their entire lineup of Abiomed products that have been released into the field, especially in the hospitals, which we call our accounts. So as a mechanical engineer in the PME team, I perform root cause analysis on all the Abiomed products that return to Danvers from the field due to a complaint that is against the product. So it's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, honestly. You're trying to look for the root cause and trying to investigate like what you can find, and you have to take all this evidence and try to determine the root cause and the failure mode and against the failure mode, and it's really cool. And so since we get like an essence of every single product in the field, that's why my manager calls us like, the Avengers, we're like the Abiomed Avengers, if you will, because like we're here to like, put out all the fires and make sure that everyone's in order and restore balance to the world, if you will. And so, these products are sent back to us, literally taken from the patient, blood and everything still on it, shipped back to Danvers, and we investigate the pumps in our state-of-the-art like on-site biohazard lab, which is really, really cool. We go in full gown, and from these investigations, we look into the pump and make sure and see like what's functioning. We run it, we test it, make sure everything is okay, and we gain a very comprehensive like data knowledge base of all the technical aspects of the entire portfolio of products. And so that does mean sometimes when it comes to the field, since we have to deal with the field, if there's a complaint, we might have to travel because the account might need additional support, or because we speak a lot with the doctors, and these are called outreaches. And so once we speak with the clinical team, be it an Abiomed representative, be it the physician that worked on the case itself, we basically answer their questions, present to them, make sure that we've really addressed all of their concerns and tailor it based on whatever the case is, whatever the complaint is. And so that's how we kind of conduct our outreaches. We have, as you guys have already learned, we have products all over the world. So, we can travel to any specific site that really needs our support. So, I'm trying to convince my manager to send me to Cedars-Sinai in LA or Jackson Memorial in Miami. It hasn't really worked yet, COVID, unfortunately, but I'll find an excuse to get there. And so, all the results and the data that, from these investigations are then used as basically as trending indicators that drive many important company functions, including product improvements. So it feeds right back into the R&D, because, all the things that we might see that, might be an issue, we, can kind of correct, and that allows us to iterate and improve our products. So it also comes to, it also allows us to do internal process improvements, just updating the FMEAs or hazards and harms. It allows us to use that data for market analysis, academic research, so on and so forth. So we really do close the loop with that product lifecycle, and it's really never a dull moment, because, as you guys can imagine, there's always something going on in the field. We see some really crazy stuff, but like I love it because it really makes the job really exciting and really engaging, and it really allows me to foster my natural inclination to solve problems and brainstorm for ideas, and it allows me to be a better engineer. So I honestly couldn't ask for a better, more important role, especially as a Black engineer in this space, because it allows us to speak to the field and talk to them in a technical manner, and let them know that okay, I'm solving the problem, and I'm the representative of Abiomed, talking to the field and telling them, okay, this is how you solve a problem. And like having that kind of outreach, that kind of connection is important, especially if we want to continue to allow more and really break the ceiling, if you will, and allow for more Black engineers to engage in these spaces. So I love that I get to have that kind of clinical facing research, clinical facing conversations. And so that also allows us to get an up close and personal view with our patients first motto, because we see how the outcome of these cases are, how the patients are affected, what it means to the clinical team. So we really do get a really all-encompassing and firsthand look at what happens in the field. So that's kind of how we put out fires, and we continue to close the loop and make things better at the post-market engineering side of things. And it really gives me a strong sense of pride to have such an important and influential role at Abiomed. So I'm very, very happy to be where I am now. I've been at the company for a year, but it feels like I've been at the company for 10 years, considering how how much I've been welcomed and how much I've been just open arms, really. And everyone's here to help, and it's been a great experience so far. And it's really a testament to Abiomed that we're doing this to really continue to improve. And I was very, very happy to be a part of this and really make Abiomed the best it can be, and especially as we grow as a company. So thank you everyone for attending and learning about our product lifecycle. And I'll hand it back over to Greg.
Boss, I couldn't have said it any better. I didn't think that there was going to be anyone that would rival me from an energy standpoint, but you brought it, man. You brought it. So look, thank you so much. And to really kind of circle back on what you were saying. I mean, I personally feel like the post-market engineering team is one of the most unique teams within the organization because of just everything that you guys have your hands on, and from an exposure standpoint. It's perfect for someone who just wants to get their hands dirty in everything. I know it was an extremely exciting team for you to join when you joined last year, and it was a pleasure to kind of be part of that process to bring you on board. So
Greg likes to take credit, for
nah, man, all the credit goes to you.
thank you.
Look, I really want to thank everybody for being part of this presentation. Really, the idea was to give everybody a slight glimpse into all the phases that our product goes through during its process here from an engineering standpoint, but also get some different perspectives on the team as well. Now, speaking of opportunity, we have loads of opportunity here at Abiomed. So almost every team that was represented here today has an opening on them. I think kind of the two major roles that we have open right now that just opened that are of critical importance are two electrical engineer positions that just opened. So if any of you in this audience are electrical engineers, you were inspired by this presentation, please reach out to myself, my colleague Laura, my manager Allison. Any one of us would be more than happy to talk with you and share more about Abiomed and potentially specifically these two roles. But we've got some great roles on Tariku's team. The team's got some cloud software roles open for him, and then we've got some other software and test engineering positions, and a really cool principal level engineer for algorithms and signal processing. Product development, we have everything from engineer 2 levels all the way up to a platform leader. So really great, amazing roles there. And then with our manufacturing and NPI teams, we've got some amazing opportunities there, both on the engineering side, but also the production side. We've got a really high impact role for our director of US production, and then a production supervisor that's actually going to be on the floor in operations, managing some of those teams. Now, I did get some insights that there might be some non-engineers part of this membership, and we've got opportunity for you as well. So we've got some really amazing marketing roles, both on our product marketing team, as well as this amazing, really cool marketing manager role that's going to support our surgery and heart failure business. And then corporate functions. Look, I'm going to be greedy. We got a bunch of roles in HR. We're also looking to add to our team as well in talent acquisition. We've got a really high impact HR operations role that's going to support the global organization, not just US. And then we've got a really strong technical accounting role, the senior accountant, financial reporting and technical accounting, really high impact role. It's going to be doing a lot of SEC reporting and supporting us through our continued growth. And then, I'm just going to sprinkle in a chief compliance officer role in there as well. So we have roles all the way from executive assistants all the way to the C-suite. So I definitely encourage all of you to go to Abiomed, go to our website, check out our careers page. Not only are you going to get insights into our opportunities, but it's also going to give you more insights into our culture. And so highly encourage everybody to take a look. And without further ado, I want to pass the floor back over to the NSBE team. And we're very open to any questions that any of the members or any of the participants have.
Yeah, so I just want to say a big thank you to the Abiomed team. I'm sorry, I struggle saying. I like saying it's just natural to say Abiomed, but it's not Abiomed. It's Abiomed. I love
Abiomed.
Abiomed.
Get it now.
All right.
All right.
Got it. I love the energy. Greg, Sarah, everyone, every single one of you. Thank you so much. I love your passion. I see the passion comes through when you guys present. And we had the BU chapter, the NSBE BU chapter and Harvard chapter. The members joined. They have their own meetings, so they had to jump off. So they apologized. And Greg, he said we'll be reaching out to the people that signed up. So and so BU has a very strong biomed, like Abbas, the biomedical engineering team, and you guys are hiring. We just want to thank you, and we hope this partnership continues. You guys are doing really exciting, cool stuff. So thank you. Selfish plug. We have our main event. We're a nonprofit, and we have our Inspire STEM Gala coming up. If you guys want to partner with us, I'll reach out to you guys after, talk about it. But yes, we're excited, and this was such a wonderful. You guys blew my mind, so thank you. And we're obviously looking forward to building the relationship and taking it to the next level. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything? Let's open it for questions.
So just really quickly, regarding your upcoming gala, what's happening? Because I know Boston, a lot of COVID restrictions are in place. So how are you all managing that at the Ritz? What do you expect it to look like?
So last year it was completely online, and this year we decided it was going to be hybrid. So the Ritz has very strict COVID protocols. So we'll be requesting vaccination cards or passports, whatever they call it. And we're going to be doing testing or checking for tests as well. And obviously just enforcing the masks and obviously reducing the capacity. Usually it's like over 200 person event. It's on a smaller scale. And we want things to continue. And even we looked at the data. We know the Omicron thing, it's spiked and it's going down. So it was actually supposed to be in Black History Month, February, but we moved it out to March. So we're hoping things will be, dying out. Because to be honest, I don't think COVID is going away, but I think it'll be more manageable. So that was the decision we made. So that's why we feel like life goes on.
It does. It does. I agree. Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question to the Abiomed team. Do they have plans to attend NSBE National Convention in March in Anaheim?
I don't think we even knew that was happening. Did we know that was happening? I didn't know that was happening.
I didn't. Shayon, I think we've got some stuff we've got to talk about. So,
I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, I mean,
so John, so the person talking, so we have, if you guys don't, we have a healthcare special interest group. Well, the healthcare professionals across the nation, across the country, are part of at the NSBE at the national level. So John Thomas was the director of the healthcare special interest group. So that's why I was asking. I think there's tons of opportunities. We could talk about this offline, because honestly, I'm talking to other folks who are trying to see how they can be part of it now. So let's talk. See what we can make happen.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
And I sent the partnership guide there for the Abiomed team as reference at the top of the chat. So hopefully you received it. If you didn't, just indicate, and I'll paste the link back in.
Yeah. So there were a few, I was just looking in the chat real quick, and I noticed a few questions. Tobena, I hope I pronounced the name right. You said you had a question. I would love to hear what question you have.
Hi, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Great talk. My name's Tobena again. I'm a PhD student in neuroscience at Delaware State University. I had two questions, primarily, the first one being if there were any internship opportunities for a student looking to pursue an internship while doing their program. And the second question being, so the devices that have been discussed by, the research that has been discussed by Dr. Park in relation to Yeah, so the devices that have been discussed have primarily been damage focused. So when there's damage, the devices help alleviate some of the stress that the heart is going through. So as someone who studies the brain, I was just trying to see if there is any research that has been done to see a more preventive measure. So as opposed to just a damage focus, is there any research done towards looking at preventive measures to see what can be done to alleviate some of that pressure before it gets to that place of severe damage that the device can now step in? So those are the two questions that I had. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually one of our main indications for Impella support is the prophylactic use of Impella while a high-risk patient is undergoing an interventional procedure. So say a patient has a blockage in a coronary artery, they're undergoing a percutaneous coronary intervention or cardiac surgery. You can place the Impella to alleviate the pressure, which we know from previous literature that those patients, for various reasons, are at high risk of not doing well during those procedures without hemodynamic support. That's a great question.
Yeah,
And there are internship opportunities, yes, folks?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So no, it's great. Done. So
Just making sure.
I'll answer that easy question.
Okay.
So we have a really robust co-op program. Internship opportunities are usually here or there. Tobena, what I would say is let's connect offline, and I'd be more than happy to kind of learn a little bit more about what you're potentially looking for, and seeing if it's something that we might be able to do here at Abiomed.
So Ben, I think it's an excellent question you're asking. I'll add, and Randy, there's a spectrum of things we look at, and when you look at heart recovery, the core thing we're doing is in essence trying to get ahead of things. And you may see that we recently purchased a company called Precardia, early phase, still in clinical trials. But if you look at the evolution of heart failure, what we're trying to do there is actually get further upstream, where we can be a bit more preventive in unloading the right side and how it comes across to the left side in a different way than we do. It's actually around congestion of the heart. But it's an excellent question because we're always asking the same thing. What can we do to really get ahead of the game here for these patients?
Yeah, thank you for those answers. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions at all?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Amraz. John Thomas, as Shun had shared, always excited to connect with other fellow mechanical engineers and technical leaders. And this is probably even the supporting engineering team could validate this. Perhaps you can give me, against your experience, especially going into Abiomed, how do you support the technical and career development of engineers underneath your responsibility for the benefit of the audience? Mm-hmm.
Great question.
It's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a global way we have to look at it as an organization, and how do we make sure we prioritize growth of individuals? And there's many ways that you try to do that. It's funny, I have right here on a more direct level, this is a professional development plan. This is one scrap one that I was writing through some people, but then you have to sit down individually and start to talk about where does someone want to go and what do they want to be? What does that look like? Where can we complement that? What are the hard realities of where they're headed, and how can we help make that happen? And I personally, and I know that this is a paradigm that a lot of Abiomed looks at, there's a piece of that is training, continued education, engaging in those ways that we have, there's many avenues to do that, but how do you cultivate that? There's mentorship that I think, quite honestly, we can continue to get better there. There's a lot of informal mentorship. How can we get better with formal mentorship and finding those opportunities? And then a big piece is, what are the programs and projects you are directly doing every day that's making you grow? Because we all know how it goes. We're here working, and you've got to pair these two. It's not only getting it done, but how is it also complementing the things you want to be? So I guess that's how I look at it. And then it's, okay, how do we put it to paper really with each individual? And technically there's more than enough technical ways to grow. I would say a lot of people have technical interest, then they also have the clinical application, which is pretty steep in what we do. And then how do you get people involved in that? And then there's just the leadership or how they want to grow as a professional, which takes all sorts of variants. And what can we do to do that? We're getting better as a company. I mean, when I first got here, I got to be honest, it was like an HR team of 1 or 2, and we were just so buried. It was hard to really lift your head up and really do any of that in a real way. And I came from a culture that there was more of that. Now it's totally evolved. And it's a very meaningful discussion we have all the way up to our tactical level goals for the year of how do we make that happen. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, thanks, Dion. It was a very complete response. And Dr. Park, also proud to share a fellow Canadian and Queens grad. So delighted to see delighted to see Dalhousie represent.
Yeah, and I'll just add real quick on it, Dion's. I think one of the other great things that we do and highly encourage here is every individual employee to create their own IDP. You know, they have that. We really want to encourage everybody to, you know, start that conversation themselves and be in control of what that vision for their career looks like, and working with their managers and their leadership under their group to help them achieve those goals, help them identify, where are those areas of improvement and how can we help them get there and achieve those goals that they've set out for. So great question. Thanks, John. Any other questions from the audience?
Did you clear out the chat, Greg?
Yeah, I had a quick question actually. Hi, I'm Oscar.
Hi, Oscar.
And hi, nice to meet you. I'm a recent graduate, and I'm planning on going for my master's in machine learning. And I was just curious for like the cloud and software development side. What development tools do you guys use to develop the software, and how do you guys make sure like that the software it's up and running and like there's no issues with it that would cause issues with the patient that has the device on it, like system failures or stuff like that? Like, how do you guys prevent from the software crashing or stuff like that? And what tools do you guys use?
Sure, I'll be happy to take that. I'm glad that you asked that question. Actually, that's one of the things that I didn't cover in my presentation. Machine learning is something that we are kind of getting into within our cloud software. Right now, we have a feature that allows us to run, based on data that is streamed to us, some predictive analysis of what the next 5 minutes of a heart performance will look like for certain specific pumps. And we are able to do that kind of processing and present data to end users using technologies that are cloud-based, cloud-native products such as Kubernetes clusters. We process data, we use message queuing to make sure that we have enough bandwidth throughput for the data that is coming to us. We process that data at scale and kind of hydrate the data points that we need for processing different algorithms, and then pass it to a model that is being trained to get predictive results. We do all that. We use a lot of languages to make this happen. We use Python, we use .NET, C#. Some scripting is involved to make sure that we do it in a reproducible manner. We have CI/CD pipelines to make sure that we can deploy things as we build them. We test different features independently, or we do integration tests at various development cycle. Those kind of aspects of our software development will ensure that we have less issues in the field and make sure that we are maturing our process and provide value-added features to our users at the end. That's a great question. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
So sorry, real quick. So the co-op positions are on the NSBE Boston job board. So our telecoms chair posted it. So I think Tobina and someone else was asking about the co-op internship positions available. So if you click on in the chat, you see the open opportunities, the job and co-op opportunities that they have. Just FYI, just in case you guys didn't see it. And Greg, I'll connect you with our healthcare special interest group.
We're never gonna say no to any introductions you want to make.
Okay.
Yeah, this was great, Greg. Good job. Really. You guys did a good job.
Team
Thank you,
effort.
NSBE. Yeah, it was a good job.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, if there's any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my my contact information in the chat here. So truly, if anybody has any question, please, I want you to reach out to me. Part of the engagement that we have with NSBE is to provide access. And this is me opening that door. I want you to walk through it. I want to have introductory conversations. Even if there are no roles open right now that align with your skill sets, I'm still open to having conversations, because as we continue to grow, there's going to be opportunities across the board. So I want to encourage everybody to reach out, and I look forward to reaching out to everybody as well. Once I get all that contact information, and again, just want to thank the whole NSBE team and everybody that attended today.
Thanks for the interest in the company.
Yes, really, thank you.
Yeah, and I obviously connect with you guys on LinkedIn. If you could drop your LinkedIn profiles too, that's another informal way of connecting with people. I just connected with you, Dion. I'm already connected with you, Greg, and all right.
Nice.
All right.
Absolutely.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Good job. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.